So I have made a lot of financial mistakes. I have lost a ton of money doing things wrong, and I needed to make up for lost time. And that is what brought me to the retirement restoration information that I'm going to share with you. I discovered these 3 strategies that could triple not only my retirement income, but your retirement income as well. This is all information that I've been able to apply to myself, and I'm excited to dive into it now and show you how to apply this to your situation. All right, so triple compared to what? If I'm going to show you how to triple your retirement income, triple compared to what? What are the traditional retirement strategies that we are trying to beat? Okay, so let's talk about Retirement 101. Here's Retirement 101. You start here with no money. You save until you have enough money to retire. You then spend your money in retirement, and then when you run out of money, you die. How's that sound? Pretty simple, right? Save for retirement. Once you get enough money, okay, you spend the money in retirement, and then you die. Okay, what's the problem? What's the problem with this situation? Now, if you die over here, you're fine, but what if you die over here? Okay, kind of messes up the plan a little bit, doesn't it? And that is when they came up with what we call the 4% rule. Here's how the 4% rule works. You're saving your money until you get enough to retire. Now, you might get a 10% return during your retirement years. Maybe not, maybe so. That's not the point. The point is that you eventually get enough money to retire. But now you might be a little bit more conservative. You might shift this aggressive kind of investing strategy to something more conservative. Maybe something that's going to get a consistent, steady, conservative 5% return. Then you're going to pay 1% to your financial advisor on average so they can go golfing every day and get that residual income. That gives you 4% to live on. That's where they came up with the 4% rule. You can Google it. There's a lot of people talking about it. But the idea is that you are living on the interest. You're spending your interest. Now, you may want to keep 20% of your money over here, and maybe you only put 80% of your money into these fixed accounts. You may do a little bit of something like that, but in general, you're going to be shifting in retirement. You're going to be shifting from more aggressive investing strategies to less aggressive strategies and try to live on the interest. Why? Because then when you die, you have the same that you started with because you're living on the interest. Okay? So your account isn't going down in value. Your account is staying level and you're living on that interest. So if you had $1 million at retirement, that $1 million would pay you $40,000 a year. That is the 4% rule in a nutshell. Okay? Now, there are 4 variables to consider with the 4% rule. First of all, stock market crashes, bond rates, inflation, and taxes. So, stock market crashes, stock market uncertainty. As you're growing your money for retirement, there's a lot of uncertainty. If you remember back in 2008, people had to delay their retirement for 10 years to get their money back before they could retire. Okay? Unless they timed it just right. But we've had a lot of ups and downs. So you might be getting close to retirement and all of a sudden lose half your money, and then you have to wait to get the money back. That can really mess up your retirement plans. That's a big uncertainty. How about bond rates? Have bond rates always paid 5%? No. Back in the 80s, they were even better than that. But we've had a lot of years recently where we were not earning 5% on bonds or CDs or anything that was safe. So to try to live on 5% minus the fees, 4%, it was more like the 2% rule. Okay, so for a long time, it was maybe like a 2 to 3% rule. That is also a huge variable to consider with the 4% rule. How about taxes? Did you know that way back in the day, in the 50s, the upper income tax bracket was taxed at 91%? Or how about during the 70s and early 80s, everyone in that high income tax bracket was taxed at 70%? Now, luckily, taxes have gone down, but do you think taxes are going to continue to go down? Or have you looked at our debt lately? Have you looked at the national debt? Do you think it's possible that taxes could go up in the future? If taxes go up in the future, you're going to potentially be paying more money in taxes in the future if you have money in an IRA or a 401k or any of these qualified plans where the government owns part of that money. So you are going to have to give some of that money to the government, which means that you may not be able to live on $40,000 a year out of your $1 million. You might only be able to live on half of that if they take half of your money in taxes. That's just a big variable, something to consider if you have money in an IRA or a 401k or something like that. So let's review. Here we have our money growing to retirement. How is it going to grow? Are we going to lose the money in the stock market and have to wait? Okay, so that rate of return is a big variable. Once we start to spend our money in retirement, are we really going to get 5%? That's a big variable, right? We've got stock market crashes here that we might have to recover from, okay? We have a big variable here with bond rates, okay? Inflation. If our income stays the same the rest of our lives, what about inflation? How are we going to keep up with inflation? We need our income to be able to go up, to be able to keep up with inflation. That's a big variable. That's a big problem. And what if our actual take-home amount goes down because taxes go up in the future and we're able to live on less? Another big variable. These are all things to consider with the 4% rule. So let's talk about the retirement restoration and these 3 strategies to triple your retirement income over the 4% rule instead of the 4% rule. So what I'm going to show you is how to improve your retirement income over the traditional 4% rule retirement strategy. Okay, so we're going to break this down into 2 phases, the growth phase and then the income distribution phase. So let's talk about the growth phase.